I wanted to start off with uh, a little bit of kind of a teaching, if you will, just an encouragement about coaching in general. The idea came to me in during church. My pastor was preaching on the road to Emmaus, Luke 24. It's one of my favorite passages. It's just a great picture of Jesus's heart for people and everything. And he was my pastor was preaching about it, and I was just like my brain just started buzzing about how amazing it is as a model for coaching. So that's what I want to talk about here. If you guys want to follow along, it would be in Luke 24, starting at verse 13. And so the context is always important. The context is Jesus had just died. Everybody's lives had just exploded. All their hopes had been dashed. It was think about Easter and everything leading up to the death, and even some sightings had been made of his resurrection, but it was still very much like the scene was not positive. The scene was heavy and dark and sad. And um, so at verse 13, later that same day, so that same day, and I just we jump into people's lives in ministry in the midst of their chaos, in the midst of their crisis, in the midst of their just life. That same day, we show up. Two of Jesus' disciples were walking from Jerusalem to Emmaus, and this version says a journey of about 17 miles. So other versions say I think 7. There's other numbers in there, but it was a distance, right? That's the point. They were in the midst of a discussion about all the events of the last few days when Jesus, and this is how a coach does, walked up and accompanied them in their journeys. And we say it a lot of times, we walk alongside worship leaders. Well, Jesus walked up and accompanied them in their journey. So that's what we do. We show up, we walk alongside of them, we walk up to people and begin to accompany them in their journey. They were unaware that it was actually Jesus walking alongside of them, for God prevented them from recognizing him. And I thought, isn't it so much the point? Like, who cares who we are? It doesn't really matter. We're not the point. We're not the okay. Now the coach is here. The expert can speak. Here we go. Not at all. Like we completely blind, incognito. Like who we are does not matter at all in this coaching relationship. So Jesus said to them, "You seem to be in a deep discussion about something. What are you talking about? So sad and gloomy." And I know different versions say it different ways, but basically he starts asking questions. He starts noting things and asking questions. He models curiosity. And that's the thing. When we're coaching somebody, it can be easy to jump to conclusions. I know the answer. And if any of us are married and we do that to our wives, they don't like it, generally speaking. They want to be listened to and empathize with. But asking questions is the thing to do. You want to ask questions. You want to start being curious. If you're noticing something, it's so funny sometimes. Um, a leader is obviously irritated or sad or dejected or angry or whatever, some emotion. It's like to us, it's like obvious. And we ask them, why are you feeling that way? And they're like, oh, am I feeling that way? I didn't even realize that. Like they're just so used to doing their own thing. So we come in from the outside and we start observing, start noticing things. You seem to be in a deep discussion about something. What are you talking about? Of course, he was Jesus. He knows what they were talking about, right? He knows what they were thinking about, but he doesn't need to go there. He just gets curious and asks an innocent question. They stopped, and the one named Cleophas answered, "Haven't you heard? Are you the only one in Jerusalem unaware of the things that have been happening over the last few days?" And I love Jesus's response. He says, "What things?" I mean, he had just risen from the dead, and he's like, he had just been killed. He defeated the grave, and he's like what things? Like what a poker face, And I think that's a lot of times when we're sitting in front of somebody and we're like, man, this is so obvious, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you, what thing? What's going on? Or the pastor called us in because the worship leader did X, Y, Z, and we know exactly what's happening, but the
Um,
process of, I don't want to say playing dumb, but we play dumb because it's so important that they say out loud what they're experiencing. That's just a super important part of the process. So, I mean, Jesus, if he wasn't a coach, yeah, that's a silly thing to say, but like he would have jumped in and started teaching them and telling them his advice, and this is why you're wrong, and blah blah blah. But he's like, no, 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 what things? What's going on? So they answered him. The things about Jesus, the man from Nazareth, he was a mighty prophet who performed miracles and wonders. His words were powerful and he had great favor with God and people. Right. So they get it. They have something that they're carrying. They've had some experience. Um, but 3 days ago, the high priest and the rulers of the people sentenced him to death and had him crucified. And this is a huge statement right here. We had all hoped, past tense. Their hope is gone. Like this is a super important thing to realize. So many of the people that we get to serve and leaders that we get to coach and talk to have lost their hope. They've got hurt, they've been disappointed, they've had failure, they've tried and tried and tried, and this jerk drummer just won't give me the time of day. I had hoped that our team would be healthy. I had hoped that I would get along with my pastor. I had hoped, but they've lost hope. And that's exactly where so many people are. We had all hoped that he was the one who would redeem and rescue Israel. They are confessing in clear words that they have given up. Um, Early this morning, some of the women informed us of something amazing. They said they went to the tomb and found it empty. They claimed, right? They're so skeptical. They claimed two angels appeared and told them that Jesus is now alive. Some of us went to see for ourselves and found the tomb exactly as the woman had said, but no one has seen him. No one has seen him yet. Now Jesus starts to elevate his response to the situation, right? First, he's just curious. He's asking questions. He's like, what things? I don't know. What's going on? You guys are discussing something. What are you discussing? What are you thinking about these days? What things are happening? Right? Completely curious and not saying anything. Then he says to them, why, I love this translation, why are you so thick-headed, slow of heart, is a kind of way of saying things. Why do you find it so hard to believe every word the prophets have spoken? Wasn't it necessary for the Messiah to experience all these sufferings and afterward to enter into his glory? So he starts to to push in to their areas of disbelief. He starts to push in to the way that they think it is not appropriate. Because we all live from what we believe. We all have ways of thinking about stuff, beliefs about our pastor, about ministry, about music, about the latest songs, about the way church is, about. And some of those things are right on, they're convictions, they're from the Lord. Some of those things are just trash, head trash. And so Jesus begins to start poking holes in that. Well, you need what? And so beginning with Moses and all the prophets, who carefully unveiled to them the revelations of himself throughout the scripture. Like he just starts poking holes, and that's what we start doing. We start pointing out, not here's the best way to do things. This is a really important notion. It's not this is the best way to do things. It's like, have you thought about this way? Have you realized that this way of thinking about something might not be the best, might not be true, might not be the proof that you want, etc. He starts poking holes in our belief systems and our thought processes. And that's what we're doing as we're making observations. And if he didn't let them fall into their own trap, saying that we had seen the Messiah, we'd hoped, but we gave up hope, he wouldn't have had that thing to say to them. Well, you guys, Don't you get it? This is what had to happen. So he explains these things to them. As they approached the village, Jesus walked on ahead, telling them he was going to go to a distant place. He's he's still messing with them, right? I mean, this is so. And don't forget, this is Easter Sunday afternoon, right? This is when this is Easter Sunday afternoon, the day he resurrected from the dead. He's messing with him. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna go, way over there, and I'm still on the long journey. But they urged him to remain there, and they pleaded, "Stay with us. It'll be dark soon." Jesus went with them to the village, and I think there's going to be that sense when we as coaches listen, are curious, allow people to speak and unload, right, their thoughts and their hearts to us, and we begin poking into their belief system and their thought processes. There's a there's like I, someone recently said, like, gosh, that was the last thing I thought you were going to say to me, but I think it's exactly what I needed to hear. Like I poked, into the thoughts of their erroneous way of thinking, if you will. And so they're going to have this sense of like, oh, can you hang out some more? Can we hang out some more? Can you coach me longer, etc. All right. Joining them at the table for supper, he took the bread, blessed it, broke it, gave it to them, and that's the moment. All at once their eyes were open and they realized that he is Jesus. And suddenly, in a flash, Jesus vanished before their eyes. It's like, I love this story. It's so crazy, man. This actually happened. Like this legit happened. Um, Stunned, they looked at each other and said, why didn't we recognize him? Didn't our hearts burn with the flames of holy passion while we walked beside him? He unveiled for us such a profound revelation from the scriptures. And when was this? If you go back a second, they said, stay with us, it'll be dark soon. The sun's going down. It's not safe to travel at night, right? Like you go into the town, you go into a house, be safe. They left at once. In other words, in the middle of the night, they hurried back to Jerusalem. I think that's what we want to see as a response. We want people to do unreasonable things. We want people to take unreasonably radical responses to hopefully the either the new beliefs that we help them to embody, or um, the response when they realize, "Man, I've been thinking incorrectly. I've been thinking wrong. I've been believing the wrong thing. I've lost hope. How could I do that? Man, the Lord called me to this." And they should respond with some what do you call it? Uh, Irrational passion. They left at once, hurried back. When they found the 11 and the other disciples together, they overheard them saying, "It's really true. The Lord has risen from the dead." He even appeared to Peter. And then the two disciples told the others what had happened to them on the road to Emmaus and how Jesus had unveiled himself in the breaking of bread. And when they were still discussing this, Jesus suddenly appeared right in front of their eyes. So I'll stop there. But there's just I'll review a couple of key things that as coaches our posture is. So go up, begin to walk along and walk in their journey. We are curious, we ask questions, we pretend we play dumb, and we ask because we are curious. And part of why we ask is because we don't really know why they're doing what they're doing. We don't know what they're thinking until we ask them, and they can start saying it, getting it out loud. And that's such a powerful experience both for them and then for us, so we can know where they're coming from. If we just jump into advice giving, we're going to miss so much. That's why we just have to ask questions, be curious. And then the effect of what we're trying to do is to renew hope. I've been in my personal life with Heather, our lives here, like I'm realizing that hope is so important. And here's the progression, right? I want to please God with all of my life. That's my goal. I want to be a God pleaser. Oh, God, please. Okay. All right. Thank you for Petra. Um, the only way to please God, I must have faith, because without faith, it's not possible to please God. And faith is simply this. Faith is being sure of what I hope for. And if I don't hope for anything, how can I have faith? If I don't have faith, how can I please God? So hoping for something, having hope is one of the necessary steps to pleasing the Lord. It's a pretty huge idea. Um, and that's what we want worship leaders to walk away with, not just tips and techniques and best practices. And those are things, those are good. Those can come. That's good. But the heart of it is like, I want you to have hope again. I want you to believe again that who God called you to be, you can be. That where He's placed you, you can be faithful and you can be fruitful in. And you can follow Him in ways that glorify Him. And I want them to have hope again, because that's such a foundational way of pleasing God. So, anybody have any reflections, thoughts, questions, rebukes? Just kidding. I mean, you can. And I'll tell you why you're wrong.
What you're describing, at least in the beginning, was very similar to chaplaincy, where you'd walk into a hospital room and you say, "Tell me what's going on." And so, like, they're in the hospital, they're sick, they just got devastating news, but I need you to tell me. Um, and in the process of you telling me the story, then I get to ask more questions.
That's good.